Muse makes it very easy to add images to your design. In this lesson, we'll look at the options you have for including images and the types of editing you can apply directly within Muse. Through various lessons, you've learned how to add imagery as background images, just as a matter of course to start fleshing out the design. But let's take a look at bringing in a regular image that's not going to be a background image. The easiest way to do this is to go to File, Place, and then browse for the image that you want. There's a grapevine image. I think that will work out quite nicely for us, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Now I'm brought back to Muse. I have my place gun. You see a little thumbnail of the image, and basically, like any kind of placing of content, if I click once, the image is going to come in at full size. If I click and drag, I can scale the image to the size that I want. So let's just see how big this image is. Now, actually, it's in pretty good shape here. It's about the size that we need. So I think that's going to work in that sense. Now, when we've got the image in here, we can do a few things to it. First of all, just like our text frames, we can round off the corners of an image frame. You can see with that image selected in the control bar here, I've got the option to round off the corners. So I can go ahead and do just that. And I'll bring that up to 20. So I've got rounded corners for my image frame. I could also, if I wanted to, apply a stroke to the image frame itself as well. Now, in my case here, I'll just deselect it for a minute. Not really what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. But one of the other things I can do with an image is rotate it. So I can just move my cursor to any one of the four corner control handles, and you see a little symbol there that indicates I can rotate the image. So I can just drag this very easily, adjust the angle that that image is placed at. You know, very much like you might do, for example, in InDesign or other desktop publishing programs, or even for that matter, if you're working in Fireworks or Photoshop and creating a collage. I can create that kind of rotation very, very easily. And once I've made a rotation, I can continue to scale the image too, just by grabbing one of those corner handles and just by dragging inwards. You can see I'm getting a percentage value here as I'm dragging it. So right now, for example, the image is 80% of its original size. So I'm getting a really good sense of what's happening to the image. Where this is really important, I think, is if I go larger than the original size, I start to notice right away, ooh, I'm scaling this image much bigger than it should be. I should never have it larger than 100% of its original size to begin with. So I'll bring that back down, like so. And I can decide, well, you know what, maybe I will rotate that back to straight again. And you can see again, I get that little tooltip there indicating when I'm at 0 degrees. So really handy being able to tell numerically that you're perfectly straight, or for that matter, what angle the image is being placed at. Now we can also, aside from scaling the image, we can also adjust the image frame and essentially clip or crop the image too. If I hold down my Command key or the Control key in Windows, I can drag one of those control handles, and you can see what I'm doing here is essentially cropping or clipping the image. I can do the same thing from up top as well, or resize the image frame basically anywhere I like. Now, if I want to actually adjust the placement of the image, I've got that capability too. Just by double-clicking inside the image frame, I see the entire image itself, and I can reposition that within inside that clipped area. So I can get just the part of the image that I want to see inside of my newly adjusted image frame. And I just click away, and I can see how that's affected things. So that's actually a really handy way to work with your images. It's very intuitive and gives you a chance to bring in an image and control it to a fair degree right within inside of Muse. Now, you don't have bitmap editing tools specifically inside of Muse, like you're not going to be changing coloration and things along those lines, but you can do things that have an effect on the image frame or on how much of the image you see within that frame. Now, there are a few other things I can do with an image that's inside of an image frame rather than an image that's a background image. If I go to the image area and just right click, you'll see a couple options here. One of them is fitting. So if I've gone ahead and adjusted the size of the image frame itself, I've got options here to force the image to essentially rescale based on that frame so I can fit the content proportionally. You can see what happens there. It didn't really work out that well. We've lost some of our effect and so on. It's not really ideal. I'll undo that one. Or I can go and choose fill frame proportionally, which basically rescales the image to fit as well as it can inside the new image frame. So I've got a couple options there for just how the image sort of interacts with the frame itself. I'm going to undo that again because I liked the close-up version here. Now, as well as being able to make adjustments to the image and how it interacts with the frame itself, if I right-click, I've also got options down here to edit the image properties. So if I click on that, we've got two fields here. We can enter in information. A tooltip, which basically gives us the ability to have a little pop-up title for the image display in the web page. And then we've got the very important alternate text. Alternate text is something that you'd put in to describe the image in case the image either for whatever reason doesn't show up on the web page, or from an accessibility perspective, if a user is visually impaired and can't see the image as well, or if they're using a text-based browser, they'll get the alternative text read out loud rather than seeing the image. All right, I'm just going to cancel out of that. I'll also point out down here we've got an option to edit the original, which means if I select this option, I'll go out to the default graphics editor for this particular file format. Adding images as content or as backgrounds is pretty straightforward. Even rotating an image is easy to do in a very visual manner. The main decision you'll have to make is whether your image will be in an image frame itself or acting as a background fill for a new or existing container.